Hello and welcome back to another Practical IT video. I am Jeremy, your host, and today we are continuing to take a look at Windows Server 2022. This is an evaluation version, and so I've got access to it for 180 days, and this is actually day 2 of that trial period. So let's get started. By default, Windows Server will boot up and immediately launch Server Manager. And myself in particular, I find this to be rather annoying. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to tell that not to launch at install. And to do that, we're going to come to Manage and Server Manager Properties. We're going to leave alone the Server Manager data refresh period, but we're going to check this box, do not start Server Manager automatically on login, and we're going to say OK. One thing you might want to do is make sure that Server Manager is pinned to your start menu. And as you can see, by default it is, along with Powershell and some other utilities that are extremely useful for Windows Server. Now, we want to jump into PowerShell here real quick. And one of the first things we want to do is see if winget is enabled. And we type winget. We can see that it is not in fact enabled. And so if we want something like Google Chrome on here as a secondary browser, or Brave or something like that, we would have to pursue another installation method. I, for one, despise Microsoft Edge, and about the only thing I use it for is downloading a browser that I can live with. So we're going to go ahead and launch that. So we are just going to go to Google, and we're going to download Chrome. And we come down here and get one past where the ads are at. We can download Chrome browser for the enterprise, which, why not? We're using it on the server edition. So channel stable, we're going to grab the MSI 64-bit and go ahead and download it. And then at least I will have a browser that I can live with, and it will be available in those minimal cases where you would actually want to run a browser on Windows Server. We can close Edge. Okay, so that did in fact complete. And we'll just launch this just to make sure that, hey, look, it is actually there. Now, I actually want to come in here and make sure that we set that as a default browser. And we're going to change that to Chrome. And hopefully it'll stay there. Okay, so just for the sake of arguments, let's go back into settings. We have done all of our updates up to this point. And we can actually, you could start by doing personalization, whatever you really need to do with it at this point. My goal with this evaluation, I want to do some work with Active Directory and play with that. I will likely add a secondary network card, virtual network card, and see about attaching some things that way. So at this point, we are going to go ahead and disconnect. And we're going to shut down. We're going to do a snapshot since we've got the base config available and ready to go. Before I do anything with Active Directory and installing extra features, I want to make sure I have a clean snapshot that I can roll back to. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect. And we'll switch over to the other screen that has the Proxmox VE running. Okay, so we need to do Control-Alt-Delete. And hopefully that'll take. Control-Alt-Delete. Log in again. And we're going to do a shutdown. This is planned. And once this shuts down, we will go ahead and do a snapshot. Okay. Now from Proxmox, we're going to come to snapshots. We're going to say take snapshot. And we're going to say snap 1. And we're going to say after updates and enabling RDP. Let's say take snapshot. And that's okay. And just for good measure, we're going to go to backup. We're going to say backup now. We're going to go to the Optiplex PBS, and we're going to say this is going to be a stop. We are currently stopped, and we're going to say backup. And this will run the initial backup to my Proxmox Backup Server. And so I'm going to let this run, and I'll be back in a few minutes once this has completed. Our backup has completed, and so we can jump over. This is VM 10,005. We can jump over to the Proxmox Backup Server and look at the data store, Big 750, and content. And we can see right here, VM 10,005. This was completed on 2/19/2022. So let's jump back to our Proxmox. We are going to start our server back up. And once this gets to the login screen, we will go back and we'll log back into this with remote desktop and poke around just a little bit more before we wrap up this video and call it a day. Okay, this should be just about booted up. So let's move over to our remote desktop and we'll go ahead and see about reconnecting. Continue. And here we go. And we can make sure that it doesn't launch the server manager. By default, it should just take us to the desktop. And we'll give it about another 10 seconds, but I don't think that's going to launch, which is good. Mission accomplished. We will manually launch that. And then we will poke around just a little bit. Still doing its little loading thing up there. Okay, so we can see manageability is set here. We'll just click on that for local server. Everything is good there. We can look at events. And it's set for critical. Just do all. Say OK. Okay, so let's look at services. So we've got clipboard user service. And these are set to automatic delayed start. Let's see if we can just get these moving a little bit. Start service. Start service. Okay, so on our local server, of course, we've got different things we can do here in the server manager. And one of the things that's nice about this interface is that we can get notifications here. One or more services cannot be started. Okay. That's fine. We'll dismiss that. Probably the Google update service. All right, so you get different pieces of information here, much the same way you would on a Linux machine, although with a lot of Linux machines, unless you're using something like Cockpit, you would be doing this from the command line. So one thing we should look at is roles and features. And I'm not going to go through a lot of these in this video, but we will take a look at least one. So before you begin, it gives you some information. Click next. And so it asks role-based or feature-based installation or remote desktop services. So we're going to do role or feature-based and click next. Select a server or virtual hard disk on which to install the roles or features. We're going to just use the main disk because that's all we've got on here at the moment. And next again. And this is where the fun starts. So there are all kinds of features on here. There's Hyper-V. There is remote access, remote desktop services, web server using IIS, although I don't know anybody in their right mind that actually uses IIS these days. Windows Server Update Services, or WSUS. That might be an interesting one to play with. And it tells you everything that it's going to install if you select that, which I'm not quite ready to do that yet. I want to plan this out a little bit. We'll say cancel. What we want to do here is we want to do Active Directory domain services. So we're going to select that. And it tells you the other things it's going to install. The LDS tools, Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell, and under tools you get Active Directory Administrative Center, and snap-ins and command line tools. We're going to say add features. And so we're also going to do DNS, add feature, validation. Validation process found problems. No static IP addresses were found on this computer. Okay, so we're going to say cancel. We're not going to do DNS yet, but this is something that we will do in the near future. So we'll just leave this alone. We'll do Active Directory domain services. Next, features. What else do we want to install? And I'm just going to quickly go through this list. And I think at the moment, I am going to leave everything else alone and just go ahead and move forward with this. We don't want SMB 1.0 CIFS support. I think we're good at the moment. PowerShell. That's fine. Windows Server Backup Service. Okay, let's continue through this. Blah, blah, blah. Azure Active Directory is a separate online service. Say next and install. And this is where I'm going to wrap things up today. I'm going to get this installed, and in the next video we will take a look at some of the setup for Active Directory. We will also, when I come back in the next video, I'll have assigned a static IP address, and we'll start working with DNS and get that service installed. So until next time, thank you for watching. You know what to do with the like button. Leave me feedback if this is something you want to see more of, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.